Viewers, welcome to YouTube live discussion in which I feel very privileged and honored to introduce our speaker, Brigadier Dr. A. Umar Farook, VSM, PhD. He has been known for technology adoptions while serving in armed forces. He was the guy, or rather the officer, who has taken a lot of interest and initiative to use newer technologies, emerging technologies. And his contribution to the field in which he was operating was very well recognized. And PhD he has earned his testimony. And not only that, that was personal achievement, but the organization also recognized his value and worth. And he has been decorated with Visis Seva Medal. That Visis Seva Medal is testimony and recognition for his acumen towards technology and its adoption. Adoption in the sense how armed forces can better utilize emerging technologies. Even now, he is in the field where newer emerging technologies are being used for very strategic application. Before he goes on further, let me add that we have been since few days seeing the news on all the TV channels and media that drones are occupying our space and attention. Drones for the wrong reasons, but drones are also understood to bring lot many benefits. They are dual-edged weapon. They can damage, they can deliver. They can deliver goods, services, which would serve the mankind, but they can damage the strategic assets also. So, with this opening remark, I request Brigadier Farooq to share with our viewers what he understands about the application of drones in emerging situation. Over to you, Brigadier Farooq.
Yeah. Good afternoon, viewers, and very thank you, Captain Tyagi Saab, for giving such a wonderful introduction about me. I'm really honored to hear such nice words from you. You see, today, every day is a challenge because of use of technology for constructive purpose as well as for destructive purpose. What we have seen on last Sunday at the JNK was a testimony to the statement. And I was very happy that ICISS has taken the initiative to discuss about drone not now, but a year before in your Dronacharya 1 and Dronacharya 2 series, wherein you have very nicely coined the word of Dronacharya. And I've gone through that discussion, a wonderful discussion which could be taken as a forward for this discussion. Since the time for us is going to be about 40-45 minutes, it will be prudent for me to discuss about a background about the drones, what the drone is for the people who are not that technical but want to understand how a drone functions, and the counter drone solutions which are available in today's market, which is the topic of today, if I understand correctly. See, what happens is that most of the drones which are used are controlled using radio. And more often than not, what happens is they are controlled using Wi-Fi frequency. Wi-Fi, you all are very familiar with what you are using in your normal mobile. And these frequencies are in the range of 2.4 to 2.483 gigahertz, as well as 5.7 to 5.825 gigahertz. Basically, they are in the gigahertz range, and they are very powerful tool. So what happens is data is usually sent from both ways. There is a controller, there is a drone. And drone to controller data often contains the drone's position, its speed, where is it heading to, the altitude at which it is functioning, the drone is there, as well as a live video feed is given through the navigational uh, or telematic channel. The telematic channel. Basically, a drone uses a telematic channel for giving a live video. It uses a GPS for flying using the coordinates. As we go on a road, the drone also requires some sort of a navigation. So it uses the navigation signal for moving around, and also uses the payload which it carries on its back to drop wherever the controller says. So it is as good as a weapon used by a controller or a terrorist or an organization which is not in favor of the government of the day to deliver the things at the place and time of its own choice. See, when it happens like this is one thing, is a control drone. The another part of it is that you don't have to be a control drone at all. There's something, the drone is flown from one point to another automatically and autonomous to a preset location. So, and these drones are called autonomous drones. So there is, you can see the amount of danger which is involved with this type of technology which is available. While we mostly talk about single drones, but today in the armed forces or in even in the civilian world, drones which are number of drones known as the swan drones are used, which has very real possibility, and this has put up to even 1,000 synchronized drones can be flown at one point of time to bring heavy damage. You can imagine the damage which it can create to infrastructure and vital installation with the armed forces or the security agencies or the government agencies is holding. So when such types of issues are there, it is very, very important that what is available in our hand to counter, and what is the solution for counter these drone threat. So have you, Captain Saab, you understood that? If you allow me, in the next about 15-20 minutes, I will talk about the counter measures which are available, which are very, very important. Drone is one thing which everybody understands. I told you basically what is the thing. It uses a frequency, it goes wherever it drops. But countermeasure is one thing which is very vital. And in Indian scenario, today's scenario, if we have the countermeasures in place, probably we can take measures to ensure that the damage is not created to the extent possible.
Yeah, Brigadier Farook, in fact, this is the focus of this session. We had part one, in which Dilpreet Singh discussed how drones can be beneficial and also can adversely affect the industrial security environment. In part two, General Shaukin Chauhan discussed how drones could be used for border management and for the security of strategic assets, and what all can be done to strengthen the security of border areas and our defense assets. And now this session exactly focuses on the countermeasures, the technologies available, and how these are to be deployed as soon as possible. So,
Surely.
to you, Brigadier Farooq.
Yeah. So now we are aware that the countermeasures assumes very much significance in today's world. And having gone through the first two series of lectures which you have gone, the countermeasures basically is one thing, has got, technology has got two categories in which it can be discussed. The first and foremost category is the monitoring equipment, and second, physical countermeasures which you can do to neutralize the drones. So what happens is that this countermeasure comes in a different forms. So our aim is to firstly discuss how we can monitor the whole thing. And the drone monitoring equipment can be a passive, simple equipment which is simply looking or listening. Or another form of monitoring equipment can be an active, that is known as sending a signal, basically a radio signal out, analyzing what comes back by sending that signal. So basically, a monitoring issues can be done in a passive method or an active method. Let me explain you what are these things. So it generally covers about 3-4 things. The first and foremost thing is the detection. What does detection means? Detection means the technology is able to detect any drone which is in your vicinity, not very far off, but a respectable distance where you can initiate measures so that the drone cannot damage the intended target or intended amount of damage it is planning to do. Okay, a radar that detects drones may also detect birds also, because it does not differentiate between a drone which looks more like a bird, but so it can confuse itself that it is not a drone but it could be a bird. So what happens is that detection, when you first and foremost think that the monitoring thing should be in a position to do the detection, a right form of detection. Once it detects, then what happens? The next logical steps is that you have to identify or classify what is the target is. So technology that classifies drones will be usually able to separate drones from other type of objects. The other type of object can be a big plane, it could be a train of birds, or it could be some other thing to confuse you. Okay, to say that it is looking like drone, but it is actually not drone. But it could be anything else also. So the next step after detection is classification and identification of what type of equipment is being used by the enemy forces or the person who has launched the drone. And it can also, some of the identification can even give the MAC address. You all must have heard of the computer. If you are sending a message, an illegal message or a normal message, from which computer you sent it and what MAC address it is binded to. So this also can be detected, and the level of identification can be really handy when it comes to do the legal measures of prosecution and by the police and all those things. So this is the second step. So I said you detection method, then the classification or identification method. Then the third and the most important thing, when you identify, then you have to locate and track that what is coming in. So what is this thing when you are being alerted that a drone is present in the vicinity, and you have, this is a very useful information, but you are not really aware. Situational awareness and the ability to deploy countermeasure can be done only when you know where is it, how far it is for, and what type of payload you can use it, what type of destruction methodology you should use it. So in order to weigh that issues regarding the countermeasures, you should also know where is the possible location, how far it is there, and if it can be tracked, how it is the flight path and going from the time of detection. So the location and detection. And the most important next part in the monitoring is the alert. So what happens is that a person who is monitoring this need not be continuously keeping a beep sound or a mic or a earphone with him throughout. So there is a requirement that if you have a graphic user interface, which is also available as a part of the monitoring equipment, it alerts the thing. So alerting takes place. So now I have in general covered what are the monitoring issues. So now let us put this in the technical form, because unless you understand how the technology is used for this purpose, it is this thing. So basic thing is there are 4 main types of drone monitoring equipment which is available in the market. The first and foremost thing is the radio frequency based analyzer. You see, what happens is everything can be detected when an electromagnetic wave is in the air, and that is known as the RF frequency. And those frequency, when it is on the air, then there is a possibility of detection. So this is first and foremost monitoring system is the RF analyzer. Then the second thing is that anything which flies on the air, there is a sound. So naturally, the second technology which is used is the acoustic sensors, which is also, you can put it in the common world as the microphones. Then the third one is the cameras, visibility. And what is this cameras are? It is optical sensors. Optical can be thermal, it could be other type of sensors. So then the fourth one, which is worldwide used, is in the in your airports, in the military installation is the radar. Radar is a very costly equipment, but radar also has some drawbacks. So what happened is this thing I told you, there are 4 monitoring equipment which uses the technology to help you to do the job. A brief on each drone monitoring equipment will really put us into the platform to understand the technology better. So, what is this radio frequency analyzer? This consists of one or more antennas. It has got an antenna and to receive radio waves. So, whenever there is something is flying, it emits some electromagnetic wave or a radio wave. So, if you have an antenna which is RF based, it can receive those signals. And once the signal is there, it has to have a antenna receives it and it needs to have a processor. What does processor do? Processor helps us to analyze the RF spectrum. What type of frequency it uses, what is the wave it is using, what is the navigational frequency it is using, what is the telemetric frequency it is using. So all those data will be available to the countermeasure agency to analyze more about the drone which is flowing. So when you are using this RF for analysis, there are some advantages and there has to be some disadvantages. So what is the advantages? A simple advantages is that it is a very low cost equipment. The second and most of the thing, it sometimes detects, but sometimes it cannot detect also, because multiple drones and controllers, if there are there, it can be easily detected, but it's not necessarily that all of them will come in your graphic user interface sphere. Then it is a very passive method. You really do not know. You are just only keeping your antennas open and you are getting it. You are not firing anything. So what happened? There is no license is required. You keep your antenna open and you will know that something is flying and you will come to know that one. So it can also use to find the direction by using a method called triangulation method. So it's a very simple and cost effective method, but it is not a very foolproof method because sometimes it cannot track the drones. And especially drones, I told you autonomous mode drones, where it is pre-programmed path and all those things, it is very difficult to use RF analyzer to detect the drone. So this is the first. We have seen the advantages. We have seen the RF analyzer advantages and disadvantages. Coming to the next type of monitoring equipment is I told you microphone. This is the acoustic sensors based microphone. What happened? Usually a microphone or a microphone array. Array means number of microphone placed in a platform, and which detects the sound made by the drone, and it calculates a direction. More sets of microphones. The moment you keep the microphone, the sound is more in this direction, sound is more in this direction or in this direction. You will be able to willy-nilly make out from which direction the drone is flying. Okay, and it could be also used for a rough triangulation. What is triangulation? I'll explain in a simple word, that if a direction of wave is coming from one X direction, another wave is coming from the Y direction, another one is coming from Z direction. You draw a plot, and the meeting point of all the 3 plots in the form of joining together all the 3 directions, it is known as in the electronic counter-measured methodology called triangulation method. I will be using this word quite often. So the triangulation method means you are not taking one direction to detect the drone. You are taking 3 directions to possibly to fix the drone's position. So this is known as triangulation method. So let us see what is the advantages in this one. So if there is some advantages, some disadvantages. The most important advantage is that the drones which are in the near field, including those operating autonomously, those which are like guided thing and the man is not getting involved, this can be detected in this method. That is because of the sound waves cannot be hidden from anybody. It is a very, very basic principle in which you can do. Then detect drone in drone clutter and other technology can struggle. That means number of drones are like a swarm type of drones are coming. With the help of acoustic sensors, we can make that how many drones are coming, because a trained operator will be able to make whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4 or multiple. So then, and this thing, it is also a completely passive method. Okay, it's not no active, because you are opened a microphone, you are just hearing, you are not doing actually any active mechanism to do the monitoring. But what does the disadvantage? the maximum distance, because sound cannot be used for a longer distance. So the distance is restricted up to approximately 300 to 500 meters. So this is the biggest disadvantage of this method. So we have seen two methods. Okay, one is the RF analyzer, and the second one we have seen it is the acoustic. The third most important is the cameras, which in the technical term we call optical sensors. Optics means it is use of lights. Okay, light is the optics, and lenses. So this is all lens. It is to be used. Light should be used, and cameras. Basically, this is what our camera. Essentially, a video camera and standard daylight cameras and optical sensors. They are all combined together, and this can be an infrared or a thermal. Thermal means detection based on the variation in the temperature between two places, between the body and the thing. Infrared is that it emits light, and that based on that you can make the type of drone which is coming in the thing. But so what is here also, let us see the disadvantages and disadvantages. The advantages is that visuals on the drone and its payload can be recorded as images. So very, very important advantages. And forensic evidence can be do for evaluation. So this is the very most important part in this. So the disadvantage is difficult to use for detection of high false alarm rate will also be there sometimes, because there are sometimes like you are capturing some image which may not actually be a drone. Okay, it could be something else also. So these are the things which happens as a disadvantages mostly in this one. And so the last one is the most important thing which is generally used by militaries and high-end players is the radar, the drone radar. So the radar is used even in most of the airports which are used. Military, air defense artillery uses the radar. And radar is one thing which keeps roaming, the antenna keeps moving. You would have seen it in the airport, which keeps revolving around a 360 degree to keep detecting what is happening. So, but it has got a lot of function, not only detect drones, but it is detecting much bigger objects like planes, enemy thing, identification, friend or foe of the plane, and who's coming in. So it's a radar is a very, very big function. But it has, what does it do? Drone detection radar also is a separate radar which sends out a signal and receives the reflection. Basically, that means it is an active type of system measuring the direction and distance. That means the position where your drone is there. So most radars send their radio signal as a burst. It does not send a small this. It sends bursts of signal. That means more number of frequencies emanated from the antennas. It goes, it touches the objects wherever it is there, and it reflects back. So those are the things. And then due to the echo which is coming back, it listens. And almost all radars are designed not to pick up small targets. So basically what happens, when a rogue drone, which is a very small target, radar willy-nilly becomes useless to you. And also it has got something called a blind area. So it cannot see down below. Like an elephant cannot see below it. So something like that, radar is a big man, but he can't do something which is very small. So that is the problem in this one. So what is advantage and disadvantage? Our thing coming to advantage is that long range is an advantage. Constant tracking can be done. Highly accurate localization, because it's a big band. Okay, can handle hundreds of targets simultaneously. This can be done, and can track all drones regardless of autonomous flight. It can detect a normal flight, controlled flight, autonomous flight, everything in control. Okay, and independent of visual condition. It can do it in daytime, it can do it in night time, it can do during fog, and all those things are possible. Okay, this is a very good advantage. That's why it is military is using this. Now, what is the disadvantage? Disadvantage is that detection range depends on the drone size. I said it's a big player, so it can't detect small. Chutki se wala drone aa jayega, so it will not be able to detect it. So the small thing it can't detect. So most do not distinguish between birds and drones. You know that 10 birds comes and a drone comes, radar will not be able to distinguish. So this is the disadvantage. So another important point, you require license to use a drone detection, because of radar cannot be used by a common man. So this is an active thing, as I told you, so that you require a license. And frequency check to prevent interference, because somebody can use the same frequency and you can listen. That's why if you go to an airport, it is a very sacred place. Nobody is allowed to enter. So the radar station is a very, very important thing. It is very useful, but it has got a small disadvantage which I covered. Now we have seen very clearly what are the monitoring equipment. Monitoring equipment, RF we have seen, acoustic we have seen sensors, and we have seen radars. So there are two parts of a countermeasure equipment. First part is the monitoring. Now monitoring हो गया. आप now क्या करेंगे? Neutralization. Simple. So neutralization also has got 4 or 5 types of thing, which we will discuss both non-technical and technical combined, so that you get a fair idea as what is the system which is available. So I will be covering now the drone countermeasure equipment which are available in the worldwide thing. Okay, basically countermeasure equipment can be grouped under 3 major heads. The first head is the physically destroying the drone. That means you found a drone, usko maar do, khatam kar do usko. That is the physical destruction. Then the second part is neutralization. Neutralizing means it is nothing but using a jammer, the radio frequency is made null and void. Whereas you are using a high power exciter, so he is able to communicate, or the drone is able to communicate to his master. You send a wave, you jam the frequency. You generally jam the receiver. So jamming kar diya, so the drone is become ineffective. Then the third measure is the taking control of the drone. The drone is going, you send another drone, you deceive it, because drone is not an intelligent animal. Today, AI based, that is artificial intelligence based system is available, something called face, which can be programmed in such a way that instead of he doing the damage, we can do the after monitoring, we can take control of this. There is taking control. So these are the 3 methods which are generally used for the countermeasures. And let us see one by one, like how these are useful to us and what all things. And let me tell you, these are all. I am just discussing all the things because, and finally, I will say which is the most effective thing and what our country needs immediately. Because I am very, very passionate about telling that you can't give a solution which is not workable. Today, I am fortunate that I am an advisor and also working with somebody who is actually making a counter anti-drone system today. And we are with companies in collaboration with the Department of Science and Technology, where we are manufacturing, and hopefully in the next about 24 months, we will have our own drone detection and neutralization system in India. So let us say, although the technology is available, current regulation in most countries forbid the use of some of the technologies for neutralizing. For example, in India today, if you look at it, you can't use a jammer. Tyagi Saab is a security personnel. I am a ex-army personnel. I can't use a jammer, on my own. I need the permission of Cabinet Secretary. Cabinet Secretary comes under the Home Cabinet Secretary. He has to permit you to use a small jammer. So imagine that you have the system with you, and in case you are not permitted to use that equipment, what would be the use? So there is a lot of problem in front of regulatory measure. So jammer is one part, whereas the anti-drone system is another part. So that part we will discuss in the last. Okay. So what happened in locating and physically apprehended drone operator? One method is that if you come to know where is the operator, what is the distance from where he is operating and all those things, if you can apprehend him and then make sure that he is not be able to use it. Like for example, other day I was discussing with Captain Saab only that you want to capture a chap who's using drone around the area of influence, is that you catch hold of the Baratis who is providing lighting and all those things. They are the one who's using drone day in and day out. And if you catch hold of him, he will know all the people who are using drone in that day. So the moment you catch hold of such types of chap, you will come to know who is using the drone and who is capable of using drone. Because it is not a common man who does this mistake. So that is one point which it came out on our discussion with Captain Saab. So that means if you know them, then you can locate and you can put rest that nothing happened to you. Then the most important thing is that RF jammer method. RF jammer method. See, what is a jammer? Jammer is that you have a power amplifier, you have a radio frequency, you have a power amplifier, you have an exciter. So what happens is that you generate a radio signal which is much higher than the signal which is in terms of power, and counter the frequency which is being used to control the drone and the master, or the drone's own frequency also. So in case you jam that, he becomes totally useless. He will not be able to do the intended task in a way it is there. So what can you achieve by using the jammer? One is that the controlled landing can be done, because the moment you jam it for some time, allow him to come down, then you use other method to bring down the jammer, bring down the drone. The second method is you can make him return to home location. That means which could be set to a target position instead of home, because sometimes the drone controller, they are very smart guys. The moment they face such type of thing, they don't want it to come down, because they will reveal all identity. So the moment some sort of impediments is faced by them, they go back to the society. But what happens is, in this, at least the damage which is intended to do is not done. Then the other thing is that drone fails and falls uncontrolled to the ground. That means it just falls down. It becomes dead and falls down. Okay, that is the third will happen by the jamming. And the fourth one is it can fly uncontrolled, random. It is supposed to go to X place. It goes to Y, Z, and you don't know where it is going. It just flies zigzag and then falls down. So, but it could be dangerous also. Instead of going and falling on the rooftop, it will go to the runway. So it is very, very dangerous. So jamming, if it is used properly, then it can neutralize the thing. So I told you what are the the fallout or the type of action which will happen due to jamming. Then the other method is counter using spoofing. Spoofing means GPS. Now you are using a GPS for navigation purpose. Okay, if suppose the GPS coordinate, it has got whatever, like if you are going in a vehicle, it is giving from Chandni Chowk to Connaught Place, you have to come. If the GPS signal is spoofed, instead of landing at Connaught Place, you will land it at Nehru Place. So this is known as spoofing. Matlab, it does something to give a wrong signal to that one. So GPS spoofers, where is the GPS is used? GPS is used in a drone for navigation purpose. It is also a prefixed path, and coordinates of global positioning system is used to fly the drone from one place to another. So GPS, if it is spoofed, then you can make the drone ineffective. Then you can also use the high power microwave devices. So what has happened is that in case you have a high power electronic magnetic pulse, which is a very, very capable of disrupting any electronic devices. If you, the EMP, it makes the electronic device useless. That means it will have a printed circuit board in the drone. The printed circuit board will become useless, and it will become nothing but a lump of whatever you call fall down. So electronic magnetic pulse is a high radio frequency pulse which can become the equipment itself ineffective. Okay, so it is finished for all. Then what has happened in this one, the advantages is this, anything within the range, the drone can be stopped effectively, because the electronic magnetic pulse cannot travel for a large distances. Whereas what is the disadvantage? That it is a very high cost equipment, because the electronic pulse is generally used in military technology, where you make the enemy's electronic equipment ineffective. Their radio set, their satellite, their guidance system. So you send EMP to destroy them. So this is a very costly proposition. Then next one is use of net guns. Net guns is non-passive guns. It can just spread the guns, and then you can catch the drones. So how it is that people fly in this thing, you just fire a net gun, and then you can capture the entire drone and then bring down back. It's a very small type of technique, but it could be anywhere from 20 meter to 300 meter. It could be affecting. And so what happens in this advantage is it is a physical capture of drones. Whereas and good forensics and prosecution purpose it can be used, because the moment you capture the drone, you will come to know what is the payload is capable, what is the capability, how much of frequency is used, what type of printed circuit board, how much time it can be available on the air. All those things you can analyze. So this is one of the most important advantages of using the net guns. Whereas what is the disadvantage? It could result in debris in an area where you don't require. So suppose a drone falls in the runway, would you like it? So it can be a most collateral damage it can cause. So you have to be careful. And this even net guns which are fired in the thing, it could cause some other issues which you undesirable at point of time. So this is the countermeasure of using net drone. Then something which you all have heard of, lasers. You must have seen in the most of the English movies and all those things. Laser guns are used, and it is a high-powered optical device. Nothing. Laser is a high-powered optical device. Nowadays they use even for correcting your cataract surgery and all those things, which produces extremely focused beam of light. Okay, this focused beam of light can destroy the drones physically, as well as it can do the same effect like a electromagnetic pulse, that is the EMP which I told you. And the laser defeats the drone by destroying the structure as well as the electrons. So the advantages is that it physically stops the drone, and the disadvantage is that it is a very high cost, because laser is a very high cost equipment, and it has to be very focused. Unless you see the drone, you can't shoot a laser. So this is the thing. Then another thing is that there's something called counter drone birds. It is available. What is it that you fly more number of drones in the vicinity, and you confuse the drone from saying that whether he is getting a signal from its master, or you keep giving wrong signals to the enemy drone, or and from your own drone. So he gets confused, and the target is this. So this is another method of this. So now you have seen so many methods of counter method, and I would only say that what is the most effective method. Okay, so now what is happening is that uh, who are all the users of countermeasures? Today, users see riot control police wants countermeasure drone. Border security forces wants a countermeasure drone. Even police wants countermeasure drone. Even airport authorities, they want it, but there can be a combination of various approaches. Whereas small players, even a guy, a district level magistrate may be requiring countermeasure drones, because somebody is using a drone in a public meeting where a home minister is going, and suddenly he is able to see the how the meeting is going, how the crowd is being managed. Police is monitoring. Okay, and suppose somebody uses that to drop unwanted things in that area. So there is a requirement of counter drone. So the small sizes drones are required. So which is the most effective drone I want to now cover. So radio frequency based drones, what is it that what does it radio frequency based? It firstly as a monitoring equipment, it detects. It is very simple. RF based detection is simple. Okay, detects. It finds the direction by triangulation method I told you. Then what happens? You have a graphic user interface, which is nothing but your laptop. So where you get all the signals. Once that is there, you exactly know what is the type of frequency used, what is the type of drone used, what is the signature of the drone, and depending on the size, what type of payload it can use. Now, once you have done the monitoring, you can use a jammer, which is known as a neutralizing uh, element, by which you can make the drone ineffective. I told you 4 options are there by using RF jammers, and all the 4 option is possible. So what happens? This is a very uh, effective system and portable system. It could go from place A to place B. It could be deployed. Training of the operators is simple. Graphic user interface in the laptop is possible. So anywhere and everywhere it can be moved. Today you are having meeting at X place. Tomorrow the same thing has to be ported to another place. It can be done. So the RF based detection and neutralization system is very cost effective, and it is one thing which is worldwide. It is being advocated to buy. But in major vital installation, like for example, airport or any other thing, it has to be a combination of various methods, which I have discussed. It would has to be a radar, because I have got, when during my course of discussion, I told you the advantages and disadvantages of various things. You need to take list out all the advantages. You need to list out all the disadvantages. You need to see what is your requirement and what is the cost you can spend and what type of installation you have to protect, where you have to deploy. So if you do a matrix, you will invariably get an answer that you can have an 80% effectiveness by deploying this. So I tried to explain by comparing various methods of monitoring, various methods of neutralization, and I have given my recommendation that the best method for low level targets and common user target is the RF based detection system and neutralization system. And whereas in the high level installation and other places which you want to use it, it has to be a combination of various methods depending on the threat perception which a person has to do that. So I'm sure that I have explained in the simple term as much as possible, which I could do. And any questions or anything I can take on, Captain Sam.
Yeah, there are two, three questions which are being put up to you for response. But let me share with our viewers that you have been so methodical and very clear about the subject that there was no intervention. I listened with full attention. Whatever curiosity and reasoning one can think of, you have already satisfied, those concerns. Now, there is one question which is coming from someone who doesn't want to be named. Question is that the news, which is for 3 days, 4 days, for wrong reasons, occupying every space on TV and media, that drones, as stated by police, came from across the border. That means for those who know little bit of drones, that these were bigger drones because they are flying radius. So those were bigger drones and should have had RFID signature and could have been captured in the radar system at the border, which has not happened. That means either effective detection system at the border is not existing, or these were not big drones as claimed coming from across the border. These were smaller drones, flew from the near vicinity and maybe just few meters away from the boundary wall. So how do you logically analyze what is being shared in the media, whether it is true, and if it is true, then both the things cannot be true. One of the element of this news is wrong.
Actually, the answer is in your question only. The answer is in your question only. You already answered the question, but I will repeat it. See, radar has some advantages of that. If it has to come from a longer distance, and it has to follow a flight path. Okay, it has to follow a flight path. Definitely, our law enforcing authority has got things in place, which means that, and it has to flow in a height. It cannot flow in a low altitude. Okay, so if the moment it flies at a altitude which is within the range of the radar, then one can think of that this thing has come across the border. Okay, which is not the case. The second thing is that it is a low flying object which has come out in today's analysis of IAF personal system, and it was not detected in the radar also. So these two aspects which clearly indicates that it is some element which is within the country has initiated this. This is my perception. And technically, it can be proved. It can be proved because the debris which has been collected, and the intended damage which has created is not too heavy to be commented upon. That we all know that one. But it is that itself shows that the hands of trained adversaries is not there that much. It could be the other thing. That's what is
Right.
my.
True. Another observation is that they may be across the border where they were controlled, came to Air Force station, and they were not detected by radar. Agreed that no, there is no 100% accuracy in technologies, and even if technology is accurate, 100% accuracy at the handler, the person behind no, the machine. So, giving the discount, another question is that for so many days, drones are being reported, none of them are grounded. That means second element of your discussion, that how to neutralize drones, that capability is not proven, at least on ground so far in that area.
That's correct. See, that's what in my recommendation, I have given you that RF based detection and neutralization system, if that would have been in place, which is not in place, I know that, because many of the security agencies, which is guarding the so-called area where the incident happened, does not have the capability to have the RF based detection and neutralization. Enquiries is on for such types of system from the law enforcing agencies. I'm sure that if that system would have been in place, the drone could have been captured for forensic and prosecution, which was not done. It is actually done. It was literally shot down by our soldiers using normal weapons. So, which is physical destruction, which is physical destruction, which is not a technological destruction. It is not technical destruction. So, which clearly implies that it has not flown in the height at which the radar has detected. Radar has not detected it. Very correct. It has come a low flying object. Low flying object as could have been detected if we have an RF based detection and neutralization, which was not available. So what has happened when they physically saw that one? Okay, either by acoustic or by physical eyes or by any other means. Okay, there are many methods. Sensors are there, optical sensors are there, acoustic sensors are there, or even naked eye could have seen it. I don't know whether it happened in daytime or nighttime. So it must have been. Then people have alerted the people who are under the security job, and it has been brought down. Okay, thank God that it has happened. But I really do not know the entire the scenario how it happened, unless whatever we have heard in the newspaper, and so we can't really come to a conclusion whether our the whatever I am saying or what you are saying is the right thing. Technically, I can say that having not found one, two, three incidences which I have discussed, it could be this one. Having found this thing, this could be. That is all.
So, without, in fact, sounding and appearing to be critical of armed forces and countries' response mechanism towards drones, but as security and professionals like you, or security professional like me, we have professional responsibility and duty to do post-event analysis, because lesson learned are through such sessions only, and better improved scenario can be painted by professionals such as you are,
I yeah, I
and
yeah,
yes,
yeah, please.
and the technological solutions would come from the technologies only, because one side technology is posing a problem, that other side solution must also come from the same domain. You have been very lucid and very simple in sharing the technological application related to drones, counter and identification, and that's why our viewers must be very happy to note that is why you are called technology evangelist. You spread the technology knowledge and very simple words. But while closing this discussion, I'm sure viewers would be clear, at least as clear as I am, that in the entire discussion, one area remains, area of concern, which is from smaller drones. For controlling smaller rogue drones, there is no detection technology, and by the time you uh, activate your response mechanism, they would have done the job and gone away, or they are commodity to be dispensed with, disposable commodity. So a smaller drone with 5,000 rupees and few hundred rupees, improvised explosive devices, and the budget would not go above 10,000 rupees, and local wedding photographer can also fly the drones, such drones, during night time. No GPS, no navigational aids required. So that remains a kind of area of concern for those who are engaged in security of critical infrastructure, and defense officials must also be sensitive to this area. And that was the purpose of this discussion, that we know what are the technologies available, either in favor of drone or for capturing and controlling rogue and hostile drones. You have been very, very helpful in understanding this subject. Thank you very much, Brigadier Umar Farook. It has been immense pleasure and privilege to have discussion with you. Thank you very much. Should similar occasion arise, I request you to come forward and add value to what we discuss in future also. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.